So thank you for coming along to the latest LinkedIn Local online, and we've got some exciting news coming, so we'll share that shortly about our next event. But this event is all about cybersecurity and privacy pertaining to LinkedIn. I'll just quickly introduce the team for those that don't know us. So I'm Jo Saunders, LinkedIn specialist. I've been doing this for about the last decade or so, focusing on helping people use LinkedIn effectively to build their brand and connect. And what I call Connectfluence is a word I explain. We've got Marianne. Just want to quickly introduce yourself.
Oh, well, yes. So as a personal brand mentor, I work with you to find and fine tune your social and visual voice using the app of choice, which is Canva. And my particular area of interest is working with professionals, performers, and pageantry candidates. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm a Canva nutter, so if you want to know anything about Canva, ask away. Absolutely love and adore Canva and love teaching it.
And she teaches it well. I've learned so much from Marianne.
Thank you. Thank you
and
so
these
much,
graphics
Jo.
behind us are actually created in Canva. Yes, excellent. Reg, you just want to quickly introduce yourself as well?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm only kidding.
All right.
I'm only kidding.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Reg. I use video to help you attract, engage, and convert your digital browsers and turn them into buyers. So I'm also an ASBAS advisor to the government Commonwealth Initiative. So I deliver workshops and train people how to use DIY video. And I also do one-on-one consultations as well about video strategy or video production. So that's me.
Well, we usually have Pete with us. Pete's a photographer and SEO expert, but he's been called away. And also we've got Jo Harper, who just is a community ambassador and loves using LinkedIn, and she's very sick at the moment. I mean, not very sick, like that sounded really serious. She's very sick.
She doesn't have COVID, people.
No. She's just sick and, not, so she's not infecting us today with her virus. Yeah.
Online.
That was funny, wasn't it? Yeah, and I thought that was quite relevant to the topic today, so there we go.
Great. Well, I am really super pleased to introduce our expert speaker joining us today. Katrina has been in the IT industry for 20 years, with most of her career spent in the outsourced IT space. And she has worked for many managed services companies across the world, holding many technical and leadership roles. Several years ago, she witnessed the rise of cyber attacks on her customers and started to realize that cybercrime was growing risk for all businesses, no matter their size. And I totally agree with that. Her passion is to educate as many people as possible on the dangers of cybercrime and teach them the skills they need to protect their business, family, and themselves from cyber criminals. And so, Katrina, absolutely warmest welcome to you, because this is a topic that's actually very near and dear to my heart too. So very pleased to have you with us today to share your knowledge with us.
Thanks guys for having me. I'm delighted to be able to be part of LinkedIn Local. I have attended so many of your fun events, and they're one of my favorite networking events. So I'm so delighted to be able to contribute to the LinkedIn Local community.
Excellent, and we love having you as well, so thank you for that. One thing I want to just talk about first, because this is probably one of the pertinent things, is passwords. Only because I'm going to share a quick little story. So recently my account was hacked, and you think I would have my passwords under control and whatever, and I've got I thought it was a really strong password, but clearly there was a glitch. So I've done something to my profile to strengthen the security. But in terms of passwords, Katrina, what would you recommend in terms of password management for LinkedIn? And obviously this applies to other platforms as well.
Yeah, so passwords is definitely the number one risk when it comes to cybersecurity for everybody, whether it's your own personal account or business account or whatever. I think people don't realize how important to have a strong password, and even more important that you change it regularly. And I know people, you hear it everywhere. You hear it on the news, you hear it, anything you search online, it will come up about passwords, and people don't really understand why. So there's been a lot of data breaches, and we hear them on the news regularly. I have a little infographic that I can show you in a little bit. But in those data breaches, what basically happens is your passwords get stolen. and the hackers then have your password. So if you use the same password for multiple accounts, they have your password. So like things like Facebook and LinkedIn hasn't had a huge data breach in a while, but there's been EasyJet in the UK had 9 million records stolen at the start of this year. So if you use your password, the same password that you would use for, say, an EasyJet or whatever account, if you use it on your LinkedIn or your business account, then they have it. The other thing with passwords is it's really easy to crack passwords if they're not complex. And I know it's the biggest pain in the backside because we have passwords for absolutely everything these days. But it's really important. So hackers can crack a password if it's like less than, say, 5 to 6 characters long. It's seconds that you're talking about that they can crack your password. So if you add complexity into your password, so say like a question mark, it may take them a minute, probably less, but they'll crack it. So basically, what the recommendations is at least over 10 digits long. So whether it's numbers, characters, and the reason for that is it'll take up to 10 years for a computer generated code to crack that password. So, you know, relatively safe when you have a longer password or a more complex password. Now, that doesn't mean to say that once you come up with these great passwords that they're safe. Again, if you don't change them regularly, and I often say that if you haven't changed your password in the last 6 months, I can guarantee it that the hackers already have your password. So it's really scary.
That is very scary. Now, and also a bit of another question then, because I use one of those password management tools. I think it's LastPass I'm using. Yeah, that's right. Where you've got the single password to log in and you manage all your passwords. But of course, I'm not using those weird passwords, the really long ones that suggest that you can never remember, even though I'm using LastPass. So I always thought, and I know after talking to you enlightened me, but I thought that if I set a password for LinkedIn, for instance, and it was, say it was password 123, and then I plugged it into LastPass, I thought LastPass was protecting me. And I think there's a bit of misunderstanding around how those password management tools work.
And basically password or LastPass and password managers, they're just a database that stores your information. So again, if the hacker hacks LinkedIn, steals your passwords, doesn't matter where you have it stored.
Yeah.
They still have it. So, I use a password manager myself, and I do recommend that you do let the password manager generate your password for your different accounts and store them. So I do not know any of my passwords for any of my online accounts. I know one password, and that's my password for my password manager. Now, it is a little bit of a letting go, because when I first done it, I was like, I don't know any of my passwords. And we all, with me, I'm a little bit of a control freak, and I like to know where my information and my data is. But it's a question that I get asked all the time. But is these password managers safer? And, should I just be writing them down or keeping them on an Excel document? Who here has an Excel document with their passwords?
So Katrina, may I just ask, so for people who are using one, I personally use RoboForm, have used RoboForm for years, but I also don't use the RoboForm generated passwords. Yeah. So I guess I'm sorry about that little noise. So my question is, how do we go back in and then, can we remedy it? Can we click one button and say RoboForm or LastPass or whatever, just change all my passwords?
Yeah, well, every different management tool has different features. So for instance, there's a feature, and it could be in the paid version of LastPass, I'm not sure, but you can set it to automatically update your passwords. So it does it for you on a regular basis. So, different platforms, as I say, has different features. So it depends. But for me, I like to do it myself so that I know when it's done. And another reason is that I have virtual assistants that use my account. So I need to know when to give them access again to my new passwords.
So what do you give your virtual assistant their own password, or are they using your main password to your password manager?
For accounts that I can give them their own account, I will. But for the likes of, say, Facebook and LinkedIn and those platforms where you can't, through LastPass or a password manager, you can give them access without them seeing your username and password. So you.
Oh, that's a good idea. See, I didn't think of that. I was just going to ask you about how you manage that sort of things. Yeah, that's a really.
Yeah, so they don't ever see what the passwords are, and they get a link to click to give access. But the only problem with that is when you change your password, you have to resend the link for them to authenticate again. So,
and also just to say, my LinkedIn password was never password 123, and it wasn't anything that basic, but it was something I thought was quite clever. But there is
other, like the government have released, if you go onto the government cyber security page, they give some basic guidelines, and a lot of people are now saying, you know, come up with a phrase or a sentence for your password. So one that the government had on their website was, which I thought it was hilarious, is I don't like pineapple on my pizza. And they're saying, you know, put in I with a capital I, space bar. So a lot of people don't know that you can actually use space bar in your password as well. So like I space don't DON apostrophe T space, you know, and it all makes it more complex for it and something that you can remember.
I didn't know spacebar was a function in passwords because it's not most web experiences. So that's good to know. How often do you recommend we actually change our passwords, even if we're using a password manager then? And including the password management password, how often should we change that one?
Well, look, the minimum I would say is 90 days. You know, that's at a minimum 90 days, change all passwords. If you're like me and you're very cyber conscious and you maybe feel like you might be a target for whatever industry or profile or job that you're in, I would say every 30 days. Because again, just, you know, unless you're keeping up to date with what the recent data breaches are, you know, again, your password could have been leaked. So like, for instance, Twitter last week, you know, they've had a data breach last week. So if you haven't updated your password there and you've used that same password elsewhere, well, they have it.
Yeah, and that's a very scary thought, really, because I think we often just set things and forget. I mean, if you had a tool like MySpace or something that's been around forever and you don't use it anymore, and that password is something you still use, then I suppose you're at risk, really. So,
yeah, I seen one recently about Skype. So back in the day, everybody had a Skype account, and a lot of them has gone dormant because Zoom and Teams and other platforms have taken over. And the hackers now are realizing this and realize that they can go in and hack people's Skype account and add people and send messages. And so I did see an article recently that if you have a dormant Skype account, it's a good idea to go and have a look to see what's happening, if there's any activity on it, and change the password.
And would you recommend, and this is slightly off LinkedIn, but would you recommend deleting those dormant accounts just so they don't exist anymore, just so that there's no risk? Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. If you don't use it, I would cancel the account. Again, it's just another, you know, account that you have to manage that you just don't need. Yeah.
So I'd be interested if anybody's willing to admit if they haven't changed their password for quite a while. Now, Katrina, as part of researching you, of course, I listened to an interview you did with Sarah Corden recently on her podcast about edupreneurs, and she shared a password story, and it's on a podcast, so can we share that? Because I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, it was funny, yeah.
Do you want to share it, or shall I share it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So Sarah was talking about, I mean, she's a bit younger than me. So in primary school, she had computers. Computers weren't really a thing, I don't think, like in schools when I was at school. But they were assigned a password in school. And she admitted on the podcast that she still used that password in some of her online presence, so some of her accounts. And that was set many, many years ago. So I guess that was a good reality check, because I think we get almost attached to our password because it means something. It might be something that has sentimental value in that case, or it means something. Or if you're like me, I've come up with some word that I think is so clever because I've got different symbols and numbers for the words, and all my passwords are different themed, for different levels of security. And I group them together. Like, for instance, I won't let LastPass save my bank passwords.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trusting around that stuff. So I'd rather have a completely different password for that I do remember. But Yeah, I think we just get too attached to it, and I think that whole letting go and trusting that those tools work is probably a good thing.
Yeah, there is some statistics around the most used passwords in the world, and like password 123 is still the most used password around the world. So you think people realize that we shouldn't use that anymore, but we do. And like a lot of the equipment that you get nowadays, like your home firewall or any IoT device, they all come with those basic passwords like admin, admin password. They still do. People don't think about changing those passwords on their devices, and it's just a security risk in your home. I heard of a university. I'm not going to name the university, but yeah, that was one of their security flaws, was that their CCTV cameras, they hadn't changed the default username and passwords on the cameras, and they were obviously internet IoT devices connected to the internet, so it was a security hole for them.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that you don't think about. So that just leads me to something so when I said recently I was hacked, and what they did when they hacked my account is they just posted something as me and liked something as me, and that's all they did that I can see. And I mean, maybe they stole some data, who knows, but I then changed my password. It happened again with my new uber secure password, I thought. So then I activated two-step authentication, which I didn't want to use because it's a pain in the backside to use. But now we've got the Authenticator app on the phone. That makes it super easy. So do you recommend using things like that to add another layer of protection?
Yeah, certainly. Any account where you can use two-factor authentication, you should, even multi-factor authentication. Everybody feels that it's a bit of a pain, but look, it takes a couple of seconds. And a lot of them now will remember on devices, so you can set it to remember for a period of time, like 30 days. So you don't have to authenticate every time that you go into the device. It's going to become common practice everywhere. All organizations are going to have to enforce it. It does add a level of security, but it's still you're not 100% secure. So you can't say I've had 2FA installed, so I don't need to change my password. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Last year, there was the world's most famous hacker, or as he once was the world's most famous hacker, came to Perth, and he showed on screen, on stage, how easy it was to hack PayPal's two-factor authentication. So it was just like, okay. So there's other things that you need to take into consideration. Is just don't, change your passwords as well as two-factor authentication. In cybersecurity, it's always building layers and upon layers of security. So it's just not one thing and that's it. You can set and forget. You have to have many different layers. And I always say we're the first layer. And unfortunately, we're the most unsecure layer.
Now, there was a stat, and I'm not sure if I heard it in the podcast interview, where you said something about the percentage that relates to human error versus the tech error.
Yeah, 95% of all cyber breaches are due to human error. So
that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, and that stat, it changes from different countries. I've seen some places say it's 80%, but a lot of places you'll say it's 90 to 95. And a lot of cybersecurity experts will say technology is pretty good. We've done a good job getting technology to where it is, and if you invest properly in your technology, it does what it should do. But we can't stop us from clicking on something that we shouldn't have, or downloading an email, or giving away information on the phone that you shouldn't. We're the biggest risk.
So, I mean, one thing with LinkedIn is you can have the email function turned on so that you get emails when there are notifications or messages and things like that. And I actually have it on because I like to have a record of the direct message, and I've got a whole filing system, but I don't use it to click on because like I said, it's very easy to get emails that look like LinkedIn that are not LinkedIn, and then you click on it and off you go. So I always recommend go to the platform to actually take action on that notification that's come to your email.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I train. I'm working with an organization at the moment doing a cyber awareness training campaign. So we do test their users by sending out phishing emails. So it's not nice, but it has to be done because it's learning them what the real phishing emails look like. So a number of weeks ago, we did do one where it was Facebook, LinkedIn, and Office 365. And to be honest, even to my trained eye, a lot of them look legit. You don't know. But this is what we're teaching them to do is, okay, where are the red flags? What should you be looking at when you receive an email from anybody, whether it's LinkedIn, from anywhere? So, I've been saying recently, look how much we've changed in our behaviors with COVID, and how we now know to sneeze into our elbow, and all these, the different things. What is it? The three stages or three things to keep us COVID safe. I just keep hearing it on the radio. And I keep saying, if we done that with emails, the 3-point check with emails, and if we could drill that into people, this is what you need to look, maybe we wouldn't click on as many things as what we do.
Yeah, well, maybe there's a mission for you to really get that happening.
Mission accepted.
But you're right, because I'm just thinking, the word LinkedIn, it's got a capital I in the middle. If you switch that for an L, it looks the same to the untrained eye, and you wouldn't even notice it. Often you get those dodgy PayPal emails with something a bit odd in the middle, but yeah, if someone did that, you would click. So I always recommend don't click on the emails. Now, in terms of some of the activity on LinkedIn, and this is something else that I've been noticing, I like to do a lot of social testing to see what people are actually up to. So with the premium account, you can have what's called you can be an open networker, which means you can turn on the feature so that anybody can message you, send you an email or a direct message. And I have that on because I'm a friendly person. I don't want to, not let someone connect with me. But of late, and this is across the board, a lot of people have been hit with these, well, hello dear, hello beautiful, how you doing sort of stuff. So I've actually changed my settings to now disallow people to message me because of the spammers. So I've had a few of them where I've just been a bit bored and felt like a bit of a game. So I've been responding to them and going along with it, how you doing? And they ask you things like, so where are you located? It's like, it's in my profile. And they ask me weird questions. Can I have your phone number? It's in my about section, which is public. It's as public as you can be, and you're still asking. So I know that they're obviously using some sort of tool, because I've been asking questions like, and my funniest response, I just think I'm quite proud of this one, is when they say, "Are you single?" My response is, "Yeah, there's only one of me. I'm not a twin. Are you?" I think that's really good. Is that good?
That's a good response.
You're very welcome to use that one. But I'm trying to get to the bottom of what they want. And in most cases, they want me to go onto WhatsApp or onto Google Meet and get on video. So when we receive those sorts of romance kind of messages, what are they actually looking for, Katrina? Are they actually looking to date me?
No. Sorry to bust your bubble, but no.
Aww. So I'm not really beautiful. Oh, yeah.
Look, it's all the same. The cyber criminals, there's normally two things that they're after. A, it's money, or B, it's data. And data so that they can sell it to make money. On the Scam Watch website, and I just actually checked it earlier, so they release monthly stats on the biggest scams that's happening in Australia right now. So in June, investment scams was number 1, but dating and romance was number 2. And in June, in Australia, there was $2,593,000 was lost to romance and dating scams.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. It was actually 12,712,000 that was lost in June in total in scams in Australia in June, in just 1 month.
So with the romance scam, so obviously, I know that they weren't after what they said they were after. I was just going along because I wanted to work out, were they trying to get me onto camera to do something inappropriate and then blackmail me? Because of course, I'm going to do that. Or are they looking for, we're in love now, and try and convince me to send them some money? Because
that's probably the largest portion is that, form a relationship, build trust, and then cry poverty, can you send me some money?
Yeah.
But the other one is, as you say, send me images. And unfortunately, that's a growing trend within the younger community, like the teenage community. And hackers know that, teenagers are, a little bit silly when it comes to technology, and they're very, very trusting. They've grown up with it where we haven't. So we're a wee bit more cautious around what we share. Well, most of us are. The sending images, and there has been cases across the world where youngsters have sent images of themselves. They've been held to ransom, haven't paid the ransom, the images get released, and then the youngster commits suicide. So it is a growing industry, unfortunately, and you just have to be cautious around what you share. But the romance one, I was actually pretty shocked last year, because I knew it existed, but I didn't think it was as big an issue as it is, and know that so many people actually fall victim to it. And I started just chatting to different people and researching it. And actually last year, dating and romance in Australia was the #1 scam of all. And you would think that, it would be phishing emails or, business scams or those kind of things. But yeah, it's quite high up there.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. And so when I'm having this conversation with these guys, they just randomly sent me their own photos, and they were just headshots. And I'm thinking, oh God, are we going to go there? Fortunately, we didn't go there. But then they said, can I send a picture? So I did. I went online onto Google Images, found a picture of some flowers, and sent that. Because then it specified what kind of picture. And I was checking the response because I wanted to know, was this a bot-driven type conversation, or was it actually human? And I think it was human, because they actually had a bit of a sense of humor in the way that they responded.
That's very, very, very smart and intuitive. They do use AI, and a lot of them, are trained to behave like humans. So
okay.
Yeah, I'd actually done a piece of research. It was the start of this year for a university assignment, and it was into bots and how they behave. And I was actually pretty shocked at some of the bots that's out there, because I was testing them to see, and same as yourself. And the ones that I knew was bots, you would actually have thought that they were humans at the other side.
Okay, interesting. Because I just assumed by the responses and the lols and the kind of responding to what I said, but then some of them completely disregarded what I'd sent, or what because I tried to throw a spanner in the works, say something different. There was an app that was released. It's an AI app, and I haven't got it anymore. But it was one of those sort of virtual friends that you talk to it, and it would talk back to you, and it learns to. And I was playing with it for a while just to see how good it was. It was a bit rubbish, actually, to be honest. But this was actually a bit the same way. Like, some of the responses just didn't really gel, Yeah.
If you own a business, a lot of IT companies now are providing password managers for corporate or for your business environment, so that everybody's password is saved in encrypted database. I do think it's a good feature and a good tool to deploy, because again, you might be doing the right thing by you and your business, but is your staff and your employees, and they could be the weak link in your business. Also, training is so important for staff and businesses, and reminders, continuous, cyber awareness. It's not just educate once, set and forget, and it's not like that. It's like arming a muscle. You need to keep at it and at it. So that's why a lot of large organizations do regular phishing campaigns, mostly monthly phishing campaigns, and then monthly training as well. So it's important that your staff understand how important it is as well, to keep their passwords up to date. Countries, it is a paid profession. I send that to Joe. Like, in some countries, they take pride in being a hacker. For them, it's a good career. It's very lucrative. They make a lot of money. So yeah.
So wait, just a quick question on password managers. So you've got your single password that should be something super secure. And then you've got, on Chrome, or I don't know if it's Google or Chrome, probably Chrome, you've got that sort of password rememberer thing. If you remember your password manager, there's a big risk there, isn't there?
Yeah. I would never let Google, Chrome, Internet Explorer, any of those remember your passwords. Because again, if your computer gets hacked, it's the first thing that they're going to go and do. It's so easy to go in and have a look, and it shows your password basically in plain text.
It's
So,
keychain, isn't it, on a Mac, and it's probably something else on a Windows.
yeah.
Because I think I used to store some of my older passwords in keychain, and then I stopped doing that because I thought, hang on, if someone grabs my Mac, hello. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I definitely wouldn't be saving my passwords.
Alison's asking, what conversations do we need to have with our children to reduce hackers accessing our information? Great question.
Very important question. And I have done an interview with a lady called Holly Ann Martin, who has those conversations with kids. Holly Ann's awesome. And I say from a very young age, then you need to make them aware of the risks that is online and what not to share. You know, I think especially in games, like I've heard of, you know, different games. I don't have kids, so I don't really know. I just be speaking to my friends and whatnot. But all these chat functions that they have in games now, a lot of them are, you can't hack them. So, you know, it may not be who they think it is that they're talking to. So it's just, you know, make sure that they are aware of the risks. You know, obviously, you know, make sure that you have, like different types of protection on your devices as well, so that they can't get to material that they shouldn't. But that doesn't always say that they won't. There was a guy I was chatting to, and he was saying that he had set up YouTube to be as secure as he could for his kids. And they were under 10. And he said one day he just happened to sit and watch what his son was doing. And he went to some page that he shouldn't have been allowed to get to. And he's like, how did you do that? And he's like, oh, you just go through this link and then another link. So they can find ways around it. So even though you may have the technology in place to prevent them, kids are smart and they will find ways around to get what they want or to get what other kids are doing. So it's just having the conversations about what is right and wrong, what, you know, if they're talking to somebody, you know, what kind of conversations they shouldn't be having and when they should speak to you. And it's just having the conversation. I definitely would recommend, if you've got kids, follow Holly Ann and what she does. And there's another lady, I haven't met her, but I think it's Cyber Safe Kids or Cyber Safety Kids as well, that Holly Ann knows. And they give a lot of great advice for kids and online.
Yeah, and I think Holly Ann, she normally attends our events, and she couldn't make it today. I think she's got something on. So yeah, I definitely recommend connecting to Holly Ann, because she's got some really great stuff that she shares. And very knowledgeable person. Now, next thing I want to just quickly talk about is logging into LinkedIn. Now, one thing I teach people, if you've got a business, you want to use your professional email address on the front end of LinkedIn. And if you work for an organization, I always say, have the login address as your personal address, like a Gmail or something, so you never lose access if you move on from the organization. But in terms of logging in, because we had a discussion, and I thought you had a very interesting point. When you work for an organization and you use your corporate email address to use LinkedIn, what are the risks involved, and what's the good practice for login?
Yeah, I would always say, if you work for an organization, never ever use your work email for any social media whatsoever, because that's a risk. So if you're, say, on Facebook and you use your work email or LinkedIn and they get a data breach, then you're putting your organization at risk. So you've probably, a lot of people would just think, oh, using my work email, let's use my work password. And so now you've just given them access and the information that they need to access your corporate or your business platforms. There is a lot of the rise of CEO fraud, and it's costing the economy quite a lot of money as well. So what that basically is that hackers will look at, CEOs, managing directors, owners of businesses, and target them. CFOs as well as another one, because obviously they control financial sides of the business. So that's been on the rise. And if you're one of those in those kind of positions, I would always say, be careful what information you put out there. Could they use that against you? And could they use it to, sort of guess your password? And that's what a lot of the hackers do. Well, they'll do what they call reconnaissance, and they'll follow you for a while. So if you have a high profile position within an organization, they could try and hold you to ransom by having a piece of information on you that maybe you've put on your own social media that you don't want your employer to know, or they could try and use that information to crack your password or to get into the organization. They could also use it to fool other people in the organization that maybe you've given them authority to access. So there's all different ways that they come up with. So just be careful by using, corporate information on social media platforms.
Yeah, I think, and Kai just commented here that it's becoming a massive problem in settlements in real estate. So I suppose you've got to be careful, particularly when there's you're in a finance type of role, because there's probably quite a few risks. So that leads to then a bit about content on LinkedIn, and like in your profile and the content you share. Is obviously when I'm working with clients, I'm getting them to put themselves out there, but there's a certain balance, and I don't think there's a definite rule for people, because it depends on your risk profile. But is there some stuff that you really shouldn't be putting out there, like stuff that you should be protecting, or is it different for everybody?
I suppose every different platform is different what you should be sharing and what you shouldn't. Like LinkedIn, again, as I say, you'll say yourself, Joe, it's a professional platform, and yeah, you want to come across with your own personality, but you need to be cautious what you share. I also say is that you need to evaluate the risk, and I think we can get OTT with cybersecurity and say, don't do this. And, and there's certain things that you shouldn't do. But again, everybody has a different risk profile. So, my risk might be very different to, say, Joe's risk or Marianne's risk or Vicky's risk, so you need to understand what your risk is. If you do have a high profile in an organization, then you're going to have a higher risk profile. I would say be careful, like back at Easter this year, I think I was saying to you, Vic or Joe, that I just seen all these people sharing their personal information on Facebook, and a lot of it was, what's your dog's name? When did you last go on holidays? And, filling out quizzes like, what type of unicorn are you? Oh my God, they're only trying to get your email address and your passwords, and a lot of those online games and things that you see on social media, that's what they're doing. They're trying to just build a profile and get some information. So Easter was just, I woke up Easter Sunday morning going, okay, I have to do something about this. If I see another one of my family members tell their whole life story on Facebook, I'm gonna crack up. So I done a short video just, explaining what this information, these are your security passwords, security phrases that you may use with the bank, you know what I mean? And you're just giving them away freely on social media. So just think before you give away. I am victim to it as well. I see a fun game and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, okay, hold on.
Yeah, which Pretty in Pink character are you? I'd be doing that one, but
unicorn I am, but it's not worth giving away my security.
No.
And the thing is, Katrina, it's actually really hard sometimes to explain to people. Like, I get this probably, every second day or every third day. I'm trying to say to someone, those games, and especially the ones that are asking for all your information, and they just don't want to be told.
Yeah.
They go, oh, well, we'll just see how it goes. And because they don't really believe it when you tell them anyway. Yeah. And then they're the ones that actually get, and then they go, help, what can I do? And it's like, well, you know what? It's a little bit too late after that's already happened. But all I can say to that is I just persevere all the time when, I'm trying to help someone. But there are people that just don't want to be told. They couldn't care less.
Yeah. And I think I can't say it's fully a generational thing, but definitely the younger generation trust technology much more, and they don't sometimes see the risks that we see. But I suppose that's with everything in life, to be fair.
I'd actually go a little bit older than that. I'd go for my generation, the ones that have kind of like already had the kids, they're a little bit older and not really caring too much anymore, and not seeing the complexities of it all. So like, I can say that for my generation because I try to teach myself as much as I can about it. And I'd like to think that I know a fair bit about particularly this this area. But at the end of the day, our kids still know so much more than we do. So, what they lack in sometimes common sense, they definitely have an abundance of, that technology minded thing, that they're not afraid of things. And that's the hard thing, I think, for the younger ones to bear, is that, they've got this thirst for it and they don't really care, because they trial and error, they just want to give everything a go, but they haven't really got the experience yet, or the understanding of the complexities of the risk of what's involved and how it can impact them, years and years and years down the road.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one.
Yeah. It is a hard one, because I see it all the time with the younger generation, just sharing information and putting things on social media and photographs that they really shouldn't be, that in the future their employer will not really take kindly to. But yeah.
And then you've got the thing that I'm really particular about, and this is more for Facebook, it doesn't happen on LinkedIn, is the first day of school photos in school uniform with the logo there. And I think you're giving away information that you really don't need to be sharing. I've seen a couple of smart people kind of just block it out because they still want to share it, but it's just that whole what's too much, and because that might be a link to maybe your password, or something, or some information. So I think we have to be careful. So on LinkedIn, now let's move on to connections. So, we can have 30,000 connections on LinkedIn, and I don't recommend that because it's really hard to manage, and you just really don't want that. So I teach connection strategy, and it's different for everybody. There's no one size fits all. But what are your thoughts about connecting to people you don't know, and what do you see as the risks of doing that?
Yeah, I'm very cautious. So if you have sent me a connection request and I haven't accepted it, I apologize. Normally, unless I get a message from somebody, and even at that, I will be very cautious. And I think you taught us, Joe, in a LinkedIn workshop that I went to last year, check different things within the profile to make sure that it's a real profile. Have they given and received recommendations is a big one for me. Because then that to me means that somebody's gone to the bother to say that they actually know them. Look at their job history, and even though it's not 100%, our criminals could still, spend an hour and do up a really good LinkedIn profile. But again, you have to think about why are they wanting to connect with me? What are they in the same industry? Are they in the same country? What's the reason behind? So like I get a lot from overseas, and I don't know these people, and I don't know how they would have found me because I'm not that overly active, but on social media. But yeah, unless they take their time and send me a message, and I still probably will send a few messages back and forward just to see exactly the type of answers that they give before I connect. So I'm probably a little bit more suspicious than most, just given the nature of what I do. But again, I just think that, especially, as I say, it depends on the role that you're in and the risk that you have. So if you're, for instance, like a senior figure within an organization, then you're going to be at a higher risk than to say somebody that doesn't have very much access to organizational data or finance or anything like that. So again, it just depends. Like if you're a student, you're probably going to be adding, and that's what I sometimes get now, is a lot of students adding me because they want to follow what I'm doing and learn from me, which to me that's fine. If they're from universities in Australia and even back in the UK, they've probably found me through the universities that I've attended. So I will mostly befriend some of those, but yeah, again, just think about it.
And on that, Katrina, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Also, when you were talking about the higher level up in the company, that also goes for like the CEO's PAs and any VAs that might be connected to the organization as well. But definitely the PAs, because I think a lot of the time that the PAs don't realize just how much pull that they have. Well, if you're working at the very top level, you should know exactly how much authority and pull you've got at that top level anyway. But in regards to things like cybersecurity, I'm not sure that they're really full bottle on that yet. Like, that they actually do control the keeper of what the CEO has as well, because half the time, the PAs are the ones that are storing the CEO's passwords,
or running their account, actually.
Or,
They
well,
help
running,
manage them.
absolutely, because that, that 37 years, that was my corporate career as an executive PA. So like I can, without a doubt, say that I knew more than my boss did, like right down to, probably what color underpants he wore that day because his wife would set it out and iron them, that kind of thing. But yeah, so if you've got a PA working with you, then make sure that they're understanding that they need to also be,
or a VA, because if you've got a
VA,
if you've got a VA, you want to make sure that they understand your risk profile, as you said, Katrina, but also all the risks of using tools like LinkedIn are. So, I mean, for instance, you want to look at, and you don't want to do this yourself, you want to go into your LinkedIn profile, go to the Me option, go to settings and privacy, and go through the account tab and go through the privacy tab and get familiar with what they all mean. I mean, some of the things, so my connection strategy is I'm pretty open to connecting, but I only accept about 1/3 of my incoming connection requests. And in fact, I've turned my connection button to a follow button, because I get a lot of connection requests, particularly when speaking, but there's a lot of dodgy activity going on at the moment. So my followers have gone up about 1,200 in the last week or two. When I hit 20,000 followers, I went, whoa, I've got there already. Now I'm at 21,200, and I look at who's following me, and a lot of them are, they're profiles that look scammy. I don't care if they follow me, they can do what they like. I mean, that information is public anyway, but I don't know why they would bother the fake profiles. So I would be looking out for those indicators. So as you say, Katrina, look at the profile, look for currency. Does it look up to date? And like all the ones that I think are fakes, they've got a beautiful photo, they've got a job, and they've got like maybe 2 or 3 connections, and that's it. And I'm not sure what they're trying to do. It's obviously getting access to data and probably dollars down the track as well, as you said, but make sure that they are legit. And even now, you mentioned recommendations, and here's a side thing. People can buy anything. There's a black market on LinkedIn. There are tools and apps that you can automate pretty much everything, and one thing you can buy is recommendations. Why would you want to do that? It's feeding your fakefluence, your ego, but it's just look out for those ones that just smell weird. Trust your instincts, because if it looks weird, it generally is. So yeah. So definitely go to your privacy settings. And one of the things, so in terms of connection strategy, I do let people in that I don't know, but I go on instinct and I've got criteria I'm looking for. But if I don't know them, I can't vouch for them. I don't want to expose my network. So one thing you can do in the privacy is you can control who can see your connections. So I actually turn off the ability for anyone to see my connections other than who we have in common. So Katrina, we're connected. You'll only see who we've got in common, because I don't want to risk exposing the connections you don't already know, because you might be connecting to me in order to suck up all my connections, and unfortunately there are tools, and as you know, that do that sort of thing.
That's a very good strategy.
So it's just getting really clear about it. So what's your thoughts on using using a full name on LinkedIn? So Reg and I have a channel called The Connection Couch, and we were talking about names. And I think when people set up their LinkedIn profile, whether it's recent or whether it's been around for a long time, people think they have to put their formal full name in there. So, and I did the same thing. So when my profile was set up a long time ago, I was Joanne Saunders. No one calls me Joanne Saunders except my mother-in-law, and usually when I'm in trouble. So, it just doesn't happen. So it was a bit incongruent. Plus, it wasn't helping me get found. But what's your thoughts on using like your formal names and things like that and making it fully visible? Like, do you think there are some security risks there?
Look, it's a difficult one, because if you are part of a business, normally your name's on a website anyway, so you still want people to find you. So like, it's a bit of a conflict, because if you don't, then how does people know who you are, especially if you have your profile photo hidden? So like a lot of people, if you're not connected, they hide their profile photo until they connect with you. So how do they know it's you? So do they have to connect to confirm that it's you? So it is a difficult one. Again, what risk does it give? If them knowing your full name, it's probably out there anyway if they do a search. Myri probably will know that she's pretty good on the privacy side and doing searches on people and digging up information on the internet. So if any of you want to know what's out there and you don't know what's out there, she's the woman to talk to because she can find it. So for me, like, I have no problem putting my name out there because people's going to find it. And if you want to be in the public, I suppose, arena, they're going to know your name.
Yeah. And actually, I'm just looking at the chat now. I mean, Rails just said, in terms of who he connects to, and Karen's agreed that if the first interaction is a sales message, it's a disconnect pretty much. And I agree, because LinkedIn is not a sales tool. It is, absolutely. It's a result of good relationship building, but it's not a direct sales tool.
You guys, if I get like the full 40-page long sales message straight away, you just go kill it.
Yeah. And when you receive messages, I mean, you want to act as I guess, as you want to be seen. So if you're doing those things, it's not going to help build relationships. But when you do get messages, I mean, and we've all seen them. I've even had LinkedIn trainers connect to me, then go into selling their LinkedIn training to me. And I think I'm all for learning. I mean, absolutely, I learn from all my peers, but that's not how you build a relationship. And if you're teaching LinkedIn, I'm going to run away straight away, and we're not a fit. But whether you're getting sales messages, and that's, you might just remove the person or just delete them and move on. But then you get the other types of messages that are unwanted, or the dodgy, scammy, romance type messages. You can remove them, you can block people, you can report them. So the person that sent me the message with the fake romance kind of stuff, I played with it for a while, like a cat playing with a dead mouse, just kept poking it and seeing what happens. Yeah, a bit of fun.
I think, Kai, the other thing, sorry, Joe, is that, as I've just typed in the comments that, live and learn sometimes, but you've got to also be mindful of your reputation, right? Because there are two key phrases. One is repetition creates your reputation. So you need to really put yourself out for what you wish to be known for. So the more you do something, the more you get known for it. And of course, we all know in, marketing and selling yourself is that marketing 101 is know, like, and trust. So, the more you do that, something that you're not really proud of is when you start to become unstuck after a while, and you find out that your connections start decreasing a little bit because people will kind of switch off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I must admit, so the reason I linked to this guy was through an article that someone else posted. So it was quite a personal one, but like the ones that make my skin crawl are the obvious copy and paste massive ones. They're terrible.
Yeah. And
especially when they didn't get your name right. Like sometimes they...
I have
at the
3
top,
letters.
It'll be someone
I get
else's
called
name,
a car
and then you go,
all the time. Like, that's my favorite one. Kia every time. Yeah, or someone else's completely wrong mail merged name that the bot stuffed up on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the best way to build relationships is, as Marianne said, it's that whole repetition. And I love that phrase from you, Marianne. It's adding value. Just keep being of service to people and building that trust so people get to know who you are. And then when you do have something to sell or something, you can do it in a way that's softer, but then people will be attracted to what you are selling. Right, I'm just conscious of time because we've hit 5 o'clock now, and so 5 o'clock was the sort of official time to wrap up the kind of discussion, I suppose, and then just go into any more questions. But Katrina, is there anything you want to share? Like, what are the top 3 things we should be doing to keep ourselves cyber secure on LinkedIn or online in general?
Look, before we go into my top tips, I would just like to say is that, we're all using technology right now. Technology is awesome, and we're going to use it for as long as, time can be. So, don't fear technology, embrace it. Just learn how to protect yourself when you are using it. I don't want cybersecurity to be this big fearful topic that everybody's like, as I often say, we all had to learn how to protect ourselves personally and protect our homes. You know, we know that there's crime going on outside, you know, every day. So we still decide to go out into the public. So it's the same with technology. Still embrace it and still use it, even though there's risks there. Just know what the risks are and try and protect yourself. For me, my top tips would be obviously your password. I can't stress that enough. If you haven't already done it, please just do it and make a habit of doing it. Honestly, people sometimes wonder how they get hacked, and that is how they get hacked. If you've ever had your Uber account or any bank accounts, it's probably all through a leaked password through a data breach.
And Serena, just to interrupt, Serena had a really good idea of putting your calendar, like set up a recurring at the end of every month or every quarter, whatever your period is, to refresh them. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so that's number one. Number two for me would be, and this is a bit of a, you know, it's back up your data. And the reason being is, even though you will try and protect yourself as much as you can, someday it's probably going to happen. There, you know, in cybersecurity, you always say, if it hasn't happened, it probably will. Because they are getting more and more smarter. They're coming up with more and more better ways to fool us. So, you know, protect yourself by making sure that you have a really decent backup. And, you know, the backup is restorable. There's no point backing up your data, even backing up your LinkedIn profile, that if you don't test it. So many organizations that I work with, they say, oh, my IT company was looking after my backup and I thought they were looking after it. Well, you know, it's your business, it's your data. You should never trust somebody fully. You know, if it was my business, I would want them to prove to me that they can restore my data. And most IT companies will definitely do that for you. Yeah. And my third, there's so many different ones. My third would probably, again, keep it basic. Antivirus software, keep it up to date. You know, there's loads of different good tools out there right now that even protects you from things like ransomware. You know, and it is, you know, worth investing in putting antivirus software on all your devices, not just your computer. You know, put it on your mobile phone, put it on your iPad, your tablet. There's a myth out there that Apple is more safe than Windows. It's not true, guys.
Oh, so are you saying even if you've got a Mac, you should have
Yeah. There is a ransomware going around at the moment for Macs in particular, and it is ransomware. If any of you know what it is, basically ransomware, it comes in through normally an email. It encrypts all your files, holds you to ransom, and normally in the past the ransomware was looking you to pay the ransom to encrypt your files. What they're actually doing now, and I've seen it in the last number of weeks, is that they're actually taking some of your data as well, so that if you pay the ransom, they might come back in a few weeks' time and say, well, I have some of your data, we want more money from you. Or if you say you don't pay the ransom and you restore from a backup, then they come back and say, well, I'm going to leak your data because you haven't paid our ransom. So ransomware, unfortunately, it's a huge business and it's not going away. A lot of the larger companies you'll have seen in the media, like Toll got really badly hit by it, and Lions over East, the distillery company, they got really badly hit by it. It's one of the biggest threats to businesses. So that's where backup becomes important. So yeah.
And what tool do you recommend? Are there a couple of antivirus that sort of are any better?
Yeah, I don't really want to recommend. Yeah. There's so many different. It all depends on your budget. And again, it depends on what your situation is. If you're, just a business, and you have your own business as just you, and you'd have different security tools compared to, say, if you have a business that has maybe 5, 10, 15, 20, and then if you have a larger organization, it's different again. So if there is, anybody out there that wants some advice, I'm happy to have a call and discuss what your setup is, because there's loads of different options out there. But yeah, I'd rather just not give one that's generic, because it may not work.
Yeah, fair enough. And you mentioned backing up, and I mean, one thing I recommend people to do, and I've got a regular update on my own page and profile, reminding people to back up, enter the quota, back up your data. It's a bit corny, but people don't know you can do that. So if you go into your into the Me option, into settings and privacy, down the very bottom of privacy, there's an area that says how LinkedIn uses your data, and you go to get a copy of your data. Now it downloads it in CSV format, so it's not really restorable, as you said. Not like if a website goes down, you just back it up. It takes a lot of your information, but at least you've got a copy of it. Then you've taken time to build your profile, and if you haven't got it, if you've worked directly in LinkedIn, which I don't recommend, you want to work offline, so you've got a copy of that awesome text you've written. And same with your connections. You can download all your connections. It doesn't give you a lot of their information, but at least you have a list of who they are in case you lose access to your account because you've been hacked, or someone's, you've accidentally done the wrong thing, or your VA's gone crazy and spammed everybody and you've been flagged. So you don't want to do that. So yeah, thanks for sharing all that information. I'm sure it's been useful for everybody.
Mary had a tip to add. If you haven't read it yet, she said if she could just add one more tip that Katrina mentioned, was implementing two-factor authentication wherever you can. It's not infallible, but as she said, it's adding layers, another hurdle for hackers to jump over before they access your stuff.
Yeah. And that's what it's about, is adding as many layers. And as I say, my job now is creating human firewalls. I want to teach as many people as many things as they can, so that they can be a human firewall and protect the business.
Now I've just shared a link just for a bit of fun. I'm not sure if you've heard of a guy called James Veach. He gave a TED talk about how to deal with spammers. So he's a comedian, but he responds to spam. It's so funny, and I think that's why I like to do this, because inspired by him. So it's his TED talk, the link, but it's about the Nigerian spammers, and he just gets into a conversation with them. It's so funny.
I was very quiet. I muted myself. There we go. Well done, Katrina. I've really, really enjoyed that. It's always good to hear from someone that really knows their stuff at a DNA level, and we've spoken to you before, and it was fantastic.
So thanks very much for attending LinkedIn Local Perth. Katrina, thanks for sharing your wisdom and knowledge. It was great to hear some great tips that we can implement. So I recommend updating your password, having a look at the two-step authentication on your LinkedIn account, backing up your profile, and of course keeping your computer safe by having the latest antivirus software and not clicking on dodgy links and things like that. So if you need some help, connect with Katrina and follow her content, and keep safe. Now you've hung in there for the announcement that we mentioned at the very beginning. This is all about the next LinkedIn Local Perth, which is going to be in person at the Ibis Styles on the 27th of August. So make sure that you book your ticket and get in early, because we're really excited to be able to meet in person again.